Hello, my online learners, and welcome to Chapter 8, the Integumentary System. A big word that basically says your skin, your hair, your nails, your sweat glands, your oil glands, your sebaceous glands. That's your integumentary system. So when we look at the integumentary system, as I said, the main parts are your skin, and you have almost 20 pounds of skin, a large amount of skin. If you stretched it out, they say it would cover a queen-size bed. Then you have your hair. Please realize that everything you see is dead. Your skin, the outer layer, is dead. Your hair, what you see is dead. So all those commercials that try and get you to grow your hair and feed your skin, it's dead. They're lying to you. Then you have your sweat glands, which help cool your body. Your sebaceous glands, which is a fancy word for your oil glands, which help lubricate your body to make it more water protective. And then you have your nails, which again are mainly there so that you can protect the ends of your fingertips. So your skin is seen as your first line of defense, which basically means it is the way to protect things from getting into your body and your body parts from getting out. So the first line of defense, if you keep it healthy and clean, your diseases won't get in. So that's what it means by the first line of defense. Okay, so let's look at it. So here we have, in case you don't know where your hair and skin is, and realize you do have sweat glands all over your body, but they're in a greater concentration in your armpits and actually in your groin. Okay? And this basically summarizes what I just said. Now, when we look at the skin, there is 2, sometimes 3 layers of skin. You have the epidermis, which is the outer dead layer, and then you have the dermis. And the dermis is the underneath layer that has the blood vessels and the nerves. Okay, good. So, as I said, the integumentary system has more than just to cover you. The integumentary system protects your vital organs. It protects you from pathogens, which are germ-causing or disease-causing organisms. You have fatty tissue, which is stored underneath your skin, and that is for quick energy supply and also for a little cushioning and insulation. Your skin will produce vitamin C, which comes from the sun, and that's very helpful in your calcium absorption. And your skin will regulate your body temperature if you've ever blushed or sweated. Also, your skin has many, many little sensory receptors on it, and these little sensory receptors are in more locations than others, so your fingers have lots. And that helps you interpret and interact with your environment. Okay, when we look at the skin, largest organism. Now, there's 3 layers, and sometimes that underlayer has a different name depending on what textbook you look at. So when you look at the skin, you mainly have this outside layer, and the difference between the top and the bottom is this groovy, zigzaggy layer here. And you'll see it when you look at a tissue, actual tissues of skin. Which I don't have in this. Oh yeah, I do. I might have here. Let me check. We'll come to it later. Okay. So when you look at a cross section of skin, you have this zigzaggy line, and that zigzaggy line is the stratum basale, and that's where the cells are that are undergoing active division or mitosis. So everything above it is dying off from there. So your skin kind of grows from the middle out. So it's from stratum basale and it grows out, and the very top layer, the stratum corneum, is dead. And there are layers inside the other 5 layers. Don't worry about the other 5 layers. Mainly just realize the active cell layer and the outermost dead cell layer. And the outermost layer has a protein called keratin in it, and that's what gives it your tough surface. Also, that is what's sloughed off. So when you're flaking, it's just dead skin. Now, all these peels and exfoliants to try and get rid of that extra layer, you really shouldn't do it, because you want that extra dead layer in order to protect your insides. Okay, so that is your layer. Now, what I want you to realize is the epidermis is dead. It's on the outside. It's not until you get to this middle layer, the dermis, where you have these, first off, you have a very good blood supply. So I don't know if you've done this where you can kind of poke in a layer. If you go the surface of your skin, you can run a pin through your skin and not bleed, or you can cut yourself on the outside and not bleed. It's not until you get into the dermis where you have blood cells that you bleed or feel pain. So these yellow blobs are different types of pain receptors. You've got your blood supply. You also have the shaft or the follicle of your hair. So you've got two parts to your hair. You've got the outer part, which is the shaft, and then you have the root inside. And the root itself has this little papillae which feeds it. So your skin is pretty much dead other than this little bit right down here. Now, every hair has a sebaceous gland or an oil gland coming off of it. And ideally, you want to oil your hair and your skin in order to give them a waterproof covering. So washing your hair and drying it out, like they say, washing it every day will dry it out. So you should really only wash it once or twice a week. Then the third layer is the hypodermis, and that is where, sometimes called the subcutaneous layer, and that is where you have fat for cushioning, and then underneath that you can see your muscles. Okay, so if you look at the epidermis, you've got protection, you've got your hypodermis, which is your, well, let's look at the list here. So your epidermis is the outside layer. You see there's several layers. It's stratified because it's in levels, and it's squamish because they're flat and thin. The cells are constantly being shed, which is good. You want the dead ones to go off, and they're dead because of the protein keratin. There's no blood supply, no nerves. It's just a keratinous dead layer to protect you. Okay. Now there are specialized cells which give you your color, and these are called melanocytes, and they detect your skin. And if you're pasty white like me, you have very few melanocytes. But this is actually my summer tan, and in the summer the ultraviolet rays of the sun will actually cause more melanocytes to be produced in my skin, but I'm not very dark. Okay. When you look at diseases of the epidermis, you can have yellow skin, which is usually a result of a liver problem, and jaundice or bilirubin collects it. You can have a bronze colored skin, which is kind of orangey, which means you have an adrenal gland problem. And if you've ever got any lovely bruises, that's where you get the purplish, and that's where you have blood circulating into the epidermis. Okay, the middle layer, this is where all the bits are, and this is the dermis. So in the dermis, you've got your capillaries, you've got your collagen and your elastin fibers for strength and elasticity. You have your involuntary muscles. Oh, I'll show you about those. The involuntary muscle will raise your hairs. I don't know if you've ever got goosebumps on your hair where the little hairs stand up. It's more obvious in a cat. You know how when a cat gets scared, the hair stands up on the back of its neck? That's because these involuntary muscles raise the hair. When you get cold, we get goosebumps, which is your body attempting to raise the hairs to trap air to warm you up, but it's not very effective because we're not very hairy. Then you have your nerve endings, your lymph vessels, your hair follicles, your sweat glands. All that is in the dermis. If you damage your epidermis, no big deal. But when you damage your dermis, that's when you've done skin damage, either with a burn or if you get a sunburn. And if you start seeing blistering and redness, that means you've burnt your skin down to your dermis. Then underneath the layer, if you remember here, is called sometimes it's called the subcutaneous tissue, but in this textbook it's called the hypodermis. Hypo meaning below. This is the undermost layer. This is where your muscles attach. This is where you have your elastin and fibrin. And also this is where you have lipocytes. Lipo means fat, cytes means cells. So this is your fat cells to produce padding to protect your tissue and also to help insulate you. Okay? Good. Now, when we look at basic skin diseases, you can have warts, plantar's warts, and genital warts, just in different locations. I just want you to be aware that these are skin diseases. You don't need to know much about them other than they're skin diseases. Athlete's foot is fungal. Growth itch, jock itch is fungal. Then you can get ringworm, which is fungal. You can also get a bacterial infection, which is usually a rash. You can have psoriasis, which are autoimmune diseases. Now, when the skin heals, it is healed from below. Remember, the epidermis doesn't have any live, you need a good blood supply in order to heal. So if the skin is punctured and the blood vessels are damaged, first thing that's happened is blood goes to the area, forming a clot. White blood cells break down any pathogens, and then the skin will heal from the dermis up. So the bottom layer of the epidermis will produce cells for repairing. If it's really severe, you'll end up with a scar composed of collagen fibers. Now, the thing about scar tissue is it doesn't go back to normal functioning tissue, and you'll have loss of sensation and loss of function. So you want to decrease scarring. If you have, scarring, then you want to. So here we have your, if there's a damage, notice it's gone down to the dermis. You have your clot form, your white blood cells migrate into the site in order to heal the wound, and then you have your damaged tissue start to repair. Okay? When we look at things such as burns or skin diseases, what you have to be considerate of is the size of the area and the depth. Anytime you have a burn or some sort of pustule or infection, okay? If you go through if you damage the dermis, you damage the tissues that repair, okay? Good. Now your nails, there's a lot of words here for your nails. I just want you to realize that the nail bed or the nail root is where it grows, and then your nail grows out from there. Okay. Your nail is also, your nails originate from the nail root. It is, again, keratinized protein. The cuticle covers the nail root, and the luna, the half moon shape, luna like lunar, like moon, is the thickest base of the nails. Okay. Nails are there for protection. Then you have your hair. Your hair has functions not just to look pretty, but it helps regulate your skin, your body temperature if you're something really hairy, like a cat or a bird. Now, a cat will fluff up if it's cold, or a dog will fluff up if it's cold, and that will help trap air to keep it warm. Also, you can detect things on your skin if you've ever had something light walk across your skin, and you do have skin all over your body. Some places it may be lighter, but it's all over your body. Your eyelashes help protect your eyes from dirt, and then your nose hairs also protect from dirt getting into your nose and your respiratory system. Okay, quickly looking at the parts, you've got the shaft, which is the outside the follicle where it grows and divides. But the shaft itself is, it's dead. Okay, good. Now, when it comes to just some quick diseases, let me just double check that I've got everything we want. Nails, briefly described. Thermal regulation. is what I really want to get into. And then topical cream. We don't need to get into all these infections. Thermal regulation. Thermal regulation is very important. And your skin, with its large surface area, is a wonderful way to thermal regulate. You may notice that if you're hot, your skin is hot. Or if you're cold, your body will shunt all the blood to your core. And that's when you can get frostbite, because you don't have enough skin or blood to your skin, your extremities. So vasodilation, dilation means it gets bigger. If you increase the blood flow to your skin, it can cool off. Vasoconstriction, your body is cold, so it's maintaining the heat, and it is going back into the core. Thermoregulation can also be done by sweat glands. If you sweat, water goes to the outside surface, it evaporates, and then the evaporation cools it. And this is why it's important to rehydrate when you sweat. Also, you have hairs on your skin, and you have muscles that attach to these hairs which stand up. So let's look at the diagram. Here is your hair, and here is the little muscle which will make your hair stand up. And I love the term for this, piloerection. Pilo means hair and erection means straight. So piloerection is the way for your hair to stand up straight. Okay, that's pretty much that. There's some diseases in there. I just want you to be aware that they're associated with skin. One thing I want you to pay attention to is thermal patches. Sorry, transdermal. Trans means across, dermal means skin. You can have steroids or fat soluble molecules transfer from your patch into your skin. So you're looking mainly at steroids. So nicotine, birth control patch, or nitroglycerin, which is a heart medication. You can also use topical creams, but topical creams stay on top. Okay, so I want you to pay attention to the layers of the skin. I want you to pay attention to the functions of the integumentary system. Briefly know about the nails. Briefly know about the hair. Briefly describe thermal regulation. Know that the diseases are associated with skin. And that's pretty much chapter 8. Take care.